Let me start with something that might immediately trigger an objection in your head. You've probably heard this before, and you may have even said it yourself. Replacement cost does not equal market value. So this statement is technically true, but it's also incomplete. And in high-end real estate, that incomplete idea quietly causes some of the most expensive pricing mistakes that I see. So today, I want to explain why. Because while replacement cost does not equal market value, that is correct, it absolutely shapes buyer psychology, scarcity, and competition, and willingness to pay, especially in luxury and custom homes. So when you understand that subtle difference correctly, pricing decisions become much cleaner, much more defensible, and much more effective. So if you're casually browsing real estate content, this video might not be for you. But if you're selling a custom, high-value home, buying in the upper tier of the market, or relocating to Indianapolis from another city, then you might be making a financial decision where pricing accuracy significantly matters. So this conversation is essential because at this level, pricing is not about marketing hype. It's about understanding how buyers actually think and what they quietly compete over. So let's slow this down and define some terms very clearly. Market value answers one question. What are buyers currently willing to pay based on recent sales, competition, and overall market conditions? So that's an important question. And for many homes, it's sufficient. But reconstruction value answers a different question entirely. What would it cost today to rebuild this home in the same standard materials, quality, and architectural detail? Not what it cost when it was built, not what it might cost in theory, what it would actually cost today in this labor market with the current materials, current timelines, and current risk and current complexity. What would it actually cost to rebuild it exactly as it is today? So those two numbers used to live relatively close together, but they don't anymore. Over the past several years, 3 major shifts have changed how reconstruction value impacts real-world pricing. First off, construction and labor costs didn't just rise, they structurally reset. So skilled labor became harder to find, and then timelines became unpredictable. Risk pricing increased, and once those costs reset, they rarely come back down in a meaningful way. So second, custom work became significantly harder to replicate. Luxury homes are defined by the things that are the hardest to recreate. You're talking about things like custom millwork, stonework, windows, architectural proportions, material sourcing. Those are not cosmetic upgrades. They're system level decisions. And once those systems already exist in a finished home, buyers evaluate them very differently than spreadsheets do. Third, buyer psychology shifted. Affluent buyers are no longer asking, is this fairly priced compared to last year's sale? They're asking, often silently, can I realistically replace this without pain, delay, or compromise? That question matters far more than most people realize. Now, let's address the objection directly. Replacement cost does not equal market value, but that's actually the wrong debate because buyers don't buy homes using equations. They buy using psychology. Luxury pricing is not arithmetic, it's behavioral. When certain details already exist and would be painful, slow, or irrational to recreate, buyers don't value them as costs. They value them as scarcity. Hand-cut stone, old-growth timber, true custom cabinetry, architectural features that would never survive today's cost-benefit analysis. These are not upgrades, they're artifacts of a different economic moment. And once those moments pass, they do not come back. So here's where most people actually get this wrong. You'll often hear very smart people and experts say that expensive details don't translate to resale. And what that really means is they don't translate evenly. They don't matter to every buyer, but they matter deeply to the right buyer. And when the right buyer shows up, behavior changes. So affluent buyers are not looking for a good value. They're looking for relief. So relief from construction, relief from decision fatigue, relief from uncertainty, relief from compromise, and relief from knowing that they pass on the home, then there may not be another one like it. So scarcity changes willingness to pay. This is why certain homes, even at aggressive prices, still attract a lot of competition. Not because buyers ran the numbers, but because they ran the what if scenarios. What if we don't buy this? What if we can't recreate this? What if the next option takes 2 years, hundreds of decisions, and a budget that drifts? That emotional calculus is very real, and it absolutely impacts price. So replacement cost does not equal market value. That is correct. But reproducibility increases perceived value, and perceived value is what buyers actually compete over. This distinction matters enormously for sellers. If you own a home with details that would be prohibitively expensive or irrational to recreate today, then those details do matter. But they must be positioned correctly, not as bragging points, not as sunk costs, but as emotional justifications. They must be framed as scarce advantages that reduce buyer hesitation and increase urgency. This is where pricing either works or quietly fails. Most pricing failures happen in one of two ways. So first, homes are undervalued because irreplaceable features are treated as interchangeable. They're priced as if another identical option will come along next week or already exists out there. Often it doesn't and it won't. So once that value is missed at launch, it's very difficult to reclaim. And then secondly, homes are overpriced using replacement cost emotionally instead of strategically. Just because something was expensive to build doesn't mean the market will support every dollar. So reconstruction value must be interpreted, not blindly applied across everything. And that's the nuance that most conversations miss. So this analysis matters most in the decision stage transactions. Estate sales, divorce, relocation, major financial planning moments. These are not aspirational decisions. They require defensible logic. Because once a price becomes public, every future conversation is anchored around that price. Pricing isn't a marketing tactic. It's kind of an invitation to the party. It's a strategic decision, and strategic decisions demand clarity. So this is also why the role of a real estate advisor changes everything at this level. You're no longer hiring someone to get attention. You're hiring someone to protect leverage. And that requires understanding construction economics, buyer psychology, and market behavior, all at the same time. It requires knowing when traditional rules apply and when they quietly break. So my professional background includes high-value property valuation and advising on complex residential homes throughout central Indianapolis. That perspective changes how pricing conversations begin and how they end. High-end real estate is not about guessing where the market might go. It's about understanding what actually constrains buyer behavior. And today, reconstruction feasibility is one of those constraints. Replacement cost doesn't dictate market value, but when certain details can no longer be efficiently recreated, they absolutely influence scarcity, competition, and willingness to pay. So if you're buying or selling a complex or high-end home in Indianapolis, this analysis should occur before a number ever becomes public. If pricing accuracy matters to you, or if you're evaluating a home where replacement feasibility could change the entire conversation, then that's where I start with clients. You can find additional analysis on my LinkedIn and Google business profile.